Hello, hello. Come on in. Welcome. Happy to see you. Come on in. Hi, I'm Anne. And now my doors are open, and so people are starting to arrive. Welcome, welcome. Do you want to write in the chat your name and where you're calling from? Wonderful, great. Doreen, Ginger, Irene. I can see your names, but I can't see your faces. Ah, there's Ginger. British Columbia, wonderful. Nancy, Paul, Ricardo, Robert, Sally, Star, Stephanie, Suzanne. Great, great, great. So nice to be with you today. So I'm Ann Weiser Cornell, and this is a chance for me to share with you some processes that I love that have to do with inner and outer peace. And one of the most interesting points I wanted to make to you today is that the path to outer peace is through inner peace. Well, I'm not trying to bring peace to the whole world, not right away anyway, but you know what happens when we look outside ourselves and we see all that chaos out there, and it feels like that chaos out there is causing my stressful feelings. Does it ever feel that way for you? And what if instead of that, oh, hi, Lucinda, welcome. And what if instead of that, we are saying, I can have some inner peace and calm. And that inner peace and calm doesn't depend on what's outside of me. And in fact, it can have the impact outside of me. It can spread from me outside of me. All right, so I'm Ann Weiser Cornell, and I've invited special guest Lucinda Hayden to be with us today. So excited to have all of you with me as well. Yay, Lucinda. All right, so I'm going to just share my screen here. So we're here today exploring your path to inner and outer peace. Lucinda, by the way, is in Mexico right now, and I'm in Berkeley, California. You've got a very colorful background there.
Yeah. I do, yes, with my Buddha. I'm in the Buddha room. I'm in an Airbnb, just having finished the International Focusing Conference in Mexico. Anne was here, but I'm still here.
I'm back.
That's very nice to be with all of you. And Vanessa, I remember you. I think we've met before. So hello to Vanessa. Hola to the person in Spain.
Yeah, I know some folks here. Wonderful. Mm-hmm. It's good that you can use the chat. Very nice. Oh, good. Well, we're going to talk about your path to inner and outer peace. Let's talk about emotions. Do your emotions get in the way of your life? I need to move something around here. Does that ever happen? Do you feel like sadness takes you over and you're sad all day, all week? Feel free to write in the chat if you feel this is true for you, that your emotions tend to take over or make life more difficult or feel challenging. What about, I guess, depression is what this guy might be feeling? He doesn't look very happy. Or worry, concern, anxiety, really feeling kind of overwhelmed by painful feelings. And I picked her for anger, but she might also be fierceness. She looks fierce to me. Excuse me a moment. So what happens when our emotions take us over? Well, what happens to you? What I see going on for people is that they find it hard to concentrate on what needs their attention. And does this ever happen? We say and do things we later regret when we've been taken over by emotion. In fact, as I look back, the only times I say and do things I later regret were when I was taken over by something. And we're held back from going for our best possibilities and pursuing our dreams. So those are some of the problems with being taken over by emotions. But it's not any better to repress or deny our emotions. Because without access to our emotions, we're missing an essential connection to what really matters to us. We're cut off. And being cut off from how we feel isn't good. It doesn't help us. Our emotions, if we're trying to not feel our emotions, they're there anyway, aren't they? They're there under the surface, whether we acknowledge them or not. And a lot of addictions and compulsions are actually ways to try to control our emotions. I had a real example of this that just came in an email today. This gentleman said, I've been struggling with my eating for many years. I don't seem to be able to eat in a healthy way. I tend to eat between meals and I know I should exercise, but I don't. And I have other compulsions with media, like binge watching movies on Netflix. And I suspect this is all to avoid painful emotions, but the emotions scare me and I don't know what to do with them. Like when I get home, I feel anxious and restless, and then I find myself mindlessly eating and or watching something. So, do you have examples like that? Is it like that for you? What kind of emotions do you feel are problematic for you? Tell us in the chat. And what do you know helps with that? We're going to tell you some things today that we think help. So basically, we don't want to be taken over by our emotions, and we don't want to be swept away by our emotions, and we don't want to be repressing and denying our emotions. We don't want to be cutting ourselves off from our emotions, especially when some of the ways people typically choose to cut themselves off from emotions are addictions. They're compulsions and addictions. And these are pretty common, actually. I know I have some, or have had some. So what does this mean? Well, there's actually a third way, right? If you think of one end of the spectrum being I get taken over by emotions, and the other end of the spectrum is I cut myself off from my emotions, there must be a middle way. And the middle way is we still have our emotions, but we're not taken over by them. We get to have our inner resource of calm even when life is stressful. That's what it's all about, right? And we get to cultivate inner peace, which brings outer peace. So inner peace brings outer peace. I want to talk a little, I'm going to come back, talk a little with Lucinda's help about the concept of self-in-presence. So just taking a peek into the chat. Oh, Ginger, people were answering my question. What are the emotions that you find troubling? Ginger writes, fear, depression, anger. And getting into my body helps. Wonderful. I also asked what helps. Oh, this is perfect. And Tina writes, I feel exhaustion from experiencing most of the examples you mentioned, right? Anger, upset, sadness, anxiety. And what helps is being self-in-presence. Well, what is that? What is being self-in-presence? Self-in-presence is being bigger. When you are bigger than your emotional states, you are self-in-presence. Self-in-presence. Those are the words I'm saying. So it's an odd phrase. It means that I am myself in a state of presence. And it means that I have the ability to turn with compassion toward any difficulty, any challenging emotional state I am feeling. I can turn toward it. So different from being caught, swept away. There was another story I wanted to tell you. This is about a woman who told us, I can get so upset with my 3-year-old son when I'm getting him ready for daycare. It's a very stressful, rushed time in the morning because I have to get to work on time. And sometimes Jackson picks that time to dawdle and play. And sometimes I just explode at him. And then I feel so bad afterwards. And the worst of it is that the anger gets kind of stuck in me and hangs on all day. And it's really hard to keep myself from blowing up at everyone I meet. And sometimes I do anyway, okay? So that's what we're saying, is that the problem with emotional states is not the emotions themselves. We need our emotions. It's this lack of being self in presence. It's also something we call disidentification, getting identified with our emotions, being merged with our emotions, our emotional states. Let's see another slide that tells us a little more about that. Identification means this is who I am. This is what I am. This is my identity. Like, I am anxious. And there's a little cartoon that shows a rabbit with a large hairy creature sitting on his lap, like, I am anxious. Disidentification means this is part of me. I am bigger than this. Something in me is anxious. And then there's a cartoon of a rabbit tipping his hat or tipping her hat to a hairy animal. So having a relationship with something rather than being stuck in it. So this is the amazing thing. You can be in relationship with your emotional states. And this increases your self-curiosity and your self-compassion. And when you do that, what is under the emotion starts to shift and let you go. So let's pause right now and try it ourselves. This is a little exercise where I would invite you to start with a stressful emotion that you are feeling right now or that you felt recently. And express it in 3 words like, I am upset. So take a stressful emotion that you're feeling right now or that you felt recently, because maybe you don't feel anything stressful right now since you're listening to us, but you felt it recently. And it might be upset or worried or tired or angry or anxious or sad, bitter, disappointed, irritated, annoyed. Lots of possibilities for stressful emotions. Just pick one that you can relate to and make a 3-word sentence with I am or I feel. And make that present tense even if you're not feeling it right now, because you remember what it was like to feel it. So I am upset would be the thing to say. I am whatever it is. I am or I feel. Okay, have you got it? All right. Now, change your sentence to something in me is. Like something in me is upset, if upset is the word, but you would use your own word. All right? And compare those two sentences. I am upset, or whatever your word is, and something in me is upset, or whatever your word is. Okay? And do you feel a difference? Do you feel a difference? I'd like to know. We would like to know how that was for you. Let us know in the chat. This is one of the simplest ways to experience a little bit of self in presence. One of the tips we have for feeling that you're bigger than what your emotional states are is this magical 3-word phrase, something in me. And Ben writes, I relaxed immediately. Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. Star writes, less overwhelmed. Ben adds, I almost wanted to laugh. Go ahead and laugh. Ginger writes, makes me more curious about what that something in me is. Lovely, definitely, yeah. And Sally is reminding me that she learned it from me 5 years ago and wished she'd put it on the bathroom mirror. That's a great idea. Put that phrase on the bathroom mirror. Super good. Yeah. Neil writes, I feel bigger than my feeling of anxiousness when I locate it as something in me. This is not the whole process, but it's a great beginning. And you can tell by what people are saying. Can't you listen to the curiosity, the feeling of space? That, right? That.
Yes, they're getting bigger. They're getting bigger. And this moved. Right now, you are moving into this self and presence that we're talking about. It really can be that simple.
It can be that simple.
Just with language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are 2 main ways to cultivate self and presence. What we're doing right now is what's called relating. We're cultivating self and presence by relating to something that we feel. And in fact, take one more step with the very thing that you're finding inside. There's something in you. Now say hello to it. Now say hello to it. I'm saying hello to it. Something in me feels upset, and I'm saying hello to it. Something in me feels anxious, and I'm saying hello to it. That may very likely increase this feeling of space and curiosity. And Neil writes, sometimes I can identify what it is in me that I'm anxious about. Great. Good. Another way to cultivate self and presence is through what we call resourcing. So relating, resourcing. Resourcing means, and let's try this together right now as well. Resourcing means feeling your body as spacious and an enjoyable place to be. So even if you're feeling tired or stressed or got pain right now, there might be somewhere in your body, even your little finger, that does feel not too bad, maybe even okay. So just pausing to sense where in my body I feel okay right now. And one way we can even add to that feeling of resourcing is by having you remember a time when you really were in a beautiful place, having an experience that you loved, like dancing or listening to music or walking in nature or at an art museum or in some other way, seeing something that's beautiful to you with your with my granddaughters, my favorite way to look at something beautiful. So remembering a time when you experienced joy, being in nature, being around beauty, being around music, moving your body, could be yoga. Ginger was mentioning yoga. That's right. That's right. And even if you're not doing those things right now, you can remember doing them. Shall we do that for a moment? Remember doing something that resources you. And that allows you to have that in your body right now. Now, the body, right, is our gateway, it's our doorway. It's the window into real possibility of change. And that's what we're pointing to today. We want to talk to you today about lasting change, real change and lasting change. After we talk about inner peace, we're going to go even further. So, self and presence, resourcing, relating, and being bigger than what you're feeling. Lovely. All right. So, the next step, we're going to talk a bit about how to go under what we feel to what's really bothering us. Okay, so you've still got a hold of what you got to there. And we're going to operate with a series of inner movements and see what happens. And when I'm putting the word upset in the exercise, substitute your word. And this pausing first to really feel your body contact on what you're sitting on, that's resourcing. To feel your body resting into the support that's there for you. To feel your breathing. What we're doing now is a kind of pausing, because one of the reasons emotions get so stressful is that we're not pausing. We're sort of barreling forward, doing things. Now we're pausing. Okay. So feeling your body supported and feeling especially in that inner area of your body, including your throat, chest, stomach, belly. And let's find again that place that you found earlier. So my word is upset, use your word, and then something in me is. Something in me is. And notice when you say something in me, do you begin to feel that somewhere in your body? Is there beginning to be a location? Like throat, chest, stomach, belly, or shoulders, jaw, between your eyes. Something in me is upset and I feel it somewhere. Noticing that? And now I'm turning toward the part of me that's upset. I love this phrase, turning toward. Let's do that together. I'm turning toward the part of me that's upset or anxious or worried or angry. Yeah? Beautiful. Beautiful. So feeling in your body the sensation of turning toward or being with or keeping company. Good, good. And then take that same word that you used at the start and sense if that word really fits or if another word fits even better. Sense if that word fits what you're feeling. It might, but it might be that another word fits even better. Is it upset? Is it worried? Is it angry? Is it sad? It's exciting to realize that when you pause and sense directly, you may discover that that's not the right word. It may be another word. Very exciting moment, because what you're doing here in this step is you're coming into a contact with the unclear edge, with the place where something new can emerge into being. Next step, let's try this one. I'm sensing what kind of contact it needs from me right now. Give that a try. I'm sensing what kind of contact it needs from me right now. So I'm feeling the upset in my chest, and it would like me to stay with it and just be with it. Notice what it is for you. I'm pausing so you can take a moment to sense this. It might not be instant. It might take a little while for you to sense what kind of contact it needs from you right now. Perfect. Every now and then you can feel that this something in your body says, go away, I don't want you to be with me. Well, that's okay. That's a kind of contact. It's communicating with you. Now, this process that we're talking about today is an inner listening. And what's absolutely remarkable is that inner listening leads to lasting change. I love it. Let's take one more move. Okay, are you still with me? One more move would be to ask inside, or to say inside, it's not a question, say inside, I am open to anything it wants to show me or tell me. Are you still with it? I'm open to anything it wants to show me or tell me. It's just pausing to sense what comes there. You're not making it happen. You're not creating it. You're just open to it. Sensing the place in your body, the kind of contact it wants, now what it wants to show you or tell you. Let's pause a minute to let that come. Lovely. For some people, it will take longer than this. We're not going to take the time right now, but I bet you can feel the potential here. And for others, something did come. Who wants to tell us about that in the chat? What happened in those 6 moves, really 5 moves from I'm upset to something in me is upset and so on. Our slides, by the way, will be distributed after the call in the email that's going out tomorrow, after the webinar. Yeah? Where was that? I'll tell you about what happened for some other people. This person we talked about earlier. He'd been struggling with his eating for many years. He told us recently, I've been struggling with my eating for many years, and with path to lasting change in the last 2 weeks, I've been experiencing more and more shift. months. Every day for a week, my weight has been going down daily. I'm not eating in between meals, and I've just started back into exercise. I feel great. My other compulsions with media, like binge watching movies and Netflix, these problems have been disappearing too. On Friday, I had a session in which I saw an empty space in front of me. So I said, I am sensing something in me is feeling empty. Then it shifted to pain. And when I connected with the pain, the sense was that it was not loved. It was very moving. Since then, I have not had the overpowering urge to do the addictions. I'm so excited by that. Notice, this is what we mean by listening. When I connected with the pain, the sense was that it was not loved. And of course, that is being contacted with a sense of empathy and self-compassion. He goes on to say, in my practice times, I'm sensing that sometimes the something in me does not want to be fixed, but simply to be felt. And the result has been less anxiety and more settledness. So nice. Let's see. Ginger wrote, I felt sensations and tension in my chest, noticed it changing as I stayed to listen, noticed the message it gave me was, please stay with me. Oh, lovely. That opens my heart when I hear that, Ginger. Yeah, we're full of emotional states that are longing for our love. Sometimes I like to use my little animals to help illustrate this. Something in me wants me to just be with it. Joanna writes, it wants me to just be with it. And the belly pain eased a little just being with it. Amazing, isn't it? So many. Where did we get the idea that in order to change, we had to do things, to tell ourselves, we had to shape up? In fact, I've been thinking about that. So this process that we're showing you today, based on respectful curiosity and inner friendliness, is so different from how we typically try to get ourselves to change. And how do you try to get yourself to change? Let's see, those of you here, do you want to tell us in the chat, how have you been trying to get yourself to change? Here are some things that people told us recently. One person said, I tell myself I need to let my anger go. Does that sound familiar? I tell myself I just need to let my anger go. How's that working for you? Another one was, I try to talk myself into feeling better. Just cheer up. This was my mother's technique. Cheer up. And a very familiar one is, I distract myself. What about you? What do you do? What do you do? Tina writes, self-criticism and arm twisting. Arm twisting, right? Get moving, get going. Oh, that sounds painful. You know, it's one of the most beautiful paradoxes that I know, that we change best by not trying to change. But it isn't that, go watch Netflix. I'm not trying to change, so I'm going to go goof off. It's that we give ourselves an environment of acceptance, self-compassion, and curiosity, this is the self-in-presence environment, the environment of transformation. We do that by relating and resourcing. Elizabeth writes, I make plans and plans and plans. Oh, that's a way you try to change, yes. Lists, workshops, yeah. What if what we need isn't all those pushy things we try to do to ourselves? What if we can trust our process if it's held in an atmosphere of compassion and curiosity? Wouldn't that be amazing? Let's pause and sense that for a moment. Well, Lucinda and I would like to talk to you a bit now about how we can help you further. This is why she's really here. We want to tell you about Your Path to Lasting Change, which is our new program. And here are some of the benefits. Would you love it if your emotions don't take you over? And instead of being knocked over and swept away by your emotional states, you get bigger than your emotions? We've been talking about that. To react calmly and effectively to life situations. What would it be like to live a life like that? Also, discovering what you really want. I know before I had learned this process, which we call focusing, I had no idea what I wanted. People would say, what do you want? I don't know. And I felt embarrassed to say I didn't know what I wanted. So I usually tried to figure out what they expected me to say or what they wanted me to say. And I would say that that was what I wanted. I was so cut off from my own truth. I didn't know what I wanted. It was an amazing revelation to finally discover what I really want. And it really helped me with tough decisions because I had an inner compass then that could guide me. And my relationships have gotten healthier. That happens to a lot of people in the path to lasting change. Healthier relationships, if your relationships are challenged by emotional communication patterns, you can more easily sort out even just your side of it. The other person doesn't even have to know the method. And you don't have to keep ignoring something that isn't right for you. If there's something that's going on in your life and it's not right for you, you have a way to know rather than being tormented by self-doubt. You'll know. I remember when I had learned this method and I was in my first real job after graduate school. I was teaching linguistics in an English department at Purdue University. I knew it wasn't right for me. I had a body feeling that it wasn't right for me. It took me about a year to take the steps, to feel what steps I needed to take about that. But I knew it right away. So, what else? And you'll move out of the past. So I think the past casts a long shadow over the present. But you can get past the past. It's not that you forget what happened to you. It's not that you're disloyal to what happened to you. It's not that you deny what happens to you, but you're freed up to respond to the present as it actually is. Oh, this is the story of remember we talked about that a lovely woman who had her son Did we talk about this?
Yes, we did.
Thank you, Lucinda.
Yeah.
My memory is a little stressed today. Yes. Okay. So here's what happened for her. She learned how to pause and say hello to her feelings. And this got put to the test one day when she had her son, Jackson, all ready for school, and just turned around for a second. And when she turned back, he had taken off all his clothes. He didn't have a stitch on. And she could feel herself getting ready to explode. It was not easy to say hello to something in me that was ready to explode. It felt like all of me, but she did it. I'm so proud of her. And the result was amazing. He just, sweetie, we have to get you dressed. And he just cooperated like a dream. And the rest of her day, best of all, the rest of her day went well too. Oh, now I wanted to tell you a little about this. This is a course called Your Path to Lasting Change. And we do have a few bonuses for joining the course. One is a video called Centering on What Matters Most. Start your day on track. Another one is called Soothing Restful Sleep. And that's so the end of your day feels good too. That's not a video, it's an audio, so you can play it as you're wanting to fall asleep. And there's one called Bringing Your Loved Ones With You, Transforming Your Relationships as You Change. You know, this is something that's challenging, right? Can I change and my relationships not change? If I change and my relationships don't, am I going to be losing my relationships? And then we have a bonus for people who sign up for this course of a 30-minute mini focusing session with me. I should say also that included in the course is a 50-minute session with Lucinda. And here we are. I'm Ann Weiser Cornell. There's Lucinda Hayden. We're the teachers of the Path to Lasting Change Part 1. And Carol Nickerson and I are the teachers of Path to Lasting Change Part 2. So just take a moment to tell you how you can find this course at the Focusing Resources website. There's a menu for courses, and then under that menu it says open to anyone. And then if you hover your mouse over that item, open to anyone, you'll see at the very top, Your Path to Lasting Change Focusing Training Program. Okay, let's talk to people.
And I just want to say the wonderful thing about having a session, usually included in the course fee, is the 50-minute session with me. That's wonderful, Anne. I didn't know you were actually adding on the bonus of a session with you as well. And
just for the people who are taking this next one, not all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a permanent bonus, but it's one right now. Yeah.
But the benefit, what's so wonderful about having that session is being guided by someone who knows this process well, like me and Anne now too. You get the experience for yourself personally, whatever came up for you with that word that you chose of the challenging emotion. You get an opportunity to see how focusing can actually help you with that situation. And I've been doing these sessions as part of this beginning course for 12 years now. And people have amazing shifts just even in one session. And that gives you a glimpse of what you learn as you take this path to lasting change. You learn how to do it for yourself. And in the course, there are other people that you're partnered with. So you learn, you have the opportunity of this pool of people that you've met to partner up with people, and you can do that for free. So we love this model that you learn how to do it for yourself, and then you can continue on your own with people that you've connected with.
That's why we decided to call it Your Path to Lasting Change. This is really a lifelong change process. And so many people are teaching you a change process that they can then, charge you money for forever. No, we don't want to do that. We want to empower you by
Yeah.
teaching you a skill. Now, some of the people I know, I see the names, some people we know already maybe have gone through our earlier training program. They may be wondering, what's the relationship of the earlier training program to this one, Path to Lasting Change? This is the new version of levels 1 and 2, but it's been, you could say, updated and reconceived, freshly redesigned.
Yes.
People are finding it very exciting.
Yeah, it's really different, actually. Yes, based on this theme of lasting change. And so not only are you learning the skill of focusing, you're learning it within the context of what you want in your life, how you would like your life to change. And so it's not just the skill itself, it's really much deeper. So Anne and I are very excited. We've been designing it. We worked on it in Mexico here. So
we've been working on it for months and months.
For months, yes. And it's really, we're very excited about this really new course. I think it's new.
It's great. Okay, we'll call it a new course.
Call it new.
Although if you took level 1 and 2 with us before, you can have a huge discount for taking this course, a repeater's discount. Just ask Allison about it. But we love it when new people join us, because it's really our life mission to change the world one inner piece at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes me very sad to think that there are people going through the unnecessary torment of being identified with emotions when they could be able to be spacious around them. Now, I acknowledge that some things people are going through are quite difficult. I don't want to make light of what you're going through. You may have a challenging life story, challenging circumstances right now, health challenges, and so on. I take those seriously. And it can feel better than it does. And when it feels better than it does, your possibilities are greater, are more unleashed and released. And I really want to live in a world where people who care about compassion, self-compassion, care about listening and empathy, who care about the heart as well as the head. I want to live in the world where such people are empowered to be more of who you are. You have so many gifts. That's what we really want for you.
Yes.
Now, yeah. So I see Doreen writes, I want to thank you for webinar. Thank you for speaking out about how to handle issues of being stuck in the past. Did we say enough about that? You could say a bit more about it.
Yeah, say more.
Say a bit more about being stuck in the past. Who else has a question, something you'd like us to address? Now, we're here, we're available. We'd love to talk to you a bit more.
Yes. I'm going to turn my light on.
Oh yes, it's darkening there where you are. Excuse me a moment, I need to. We're hearing from Paul, who says he's in the new course now, and he's giving us a recommendation for it. Thank you, Paul. How does this work help with recovery from the past? I think that for myself, some of the greatest difficulties in my present life have always been linked back to earlier times. If it hadn't been for things that were lacking in my early life, my early relationships, I wouldn't have been so, let's use a technical term, I wouldn't have been so messed up as a young adult and in my 30s and 40s, etc. And luckily I discovered the focusing process when I was 22, or I don't even know if I would have survived my 20s. But what I found out is that by bringing a compassionate relationship to the younger me who went through those painful times, I could shift those experiences, not by making them shift, but by creating that inner environment in which change is possible. You know, it has always seemed to me the greatest mystery is why we get stuck and don't change. Seems like all of life around us is flowering and moving through life cycles, taking next steps. Everything alive always changes. Emotion, it's named emotion because it changes. So why do we get stuck? I think that's the biggest mystery. Not how do we change, but how do we not be stuck? Because the stuckness is the mystery. And then it turns out that if you have a compassionate relationship with what in you feels stuck, it actually starts to shift relatively quickly. And what is not going well is that feeling that I have to change myself through some kind of force, discipline, control. I have to tell this other part of me how to be. And then this other part of me resists and says, no, you can't tell me what to do. And it becomes an inner battleground.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes an inner battleground. Yeah.
Yeah. And the feeling that I've had about it is kind of like there've been these knots within me, from the past, also from things that have happened where the energy just got kind of tied up. And what focusing helped me do was come into that larger self in presence that we talked about, so that I'm not just on this level of where the knots are. I learned how, through learning this, to come into this larger place and then be with, like, say, here's a knot, be with it from here. And then it itself could start to release and the energy would go back to the whole. So that has been the process for me of becoming more of this larger self. And not all the time. It's not like we get there and then we're always there.
It's a rhythm.
An ongoing
it's a process.
It's a rhythm.
That's right.
And, something else, a situation could arise that could trigger something that, has had a knot. But each time, it's like the knots are less, they're looser, and it's easier to come back. And I recognize that, oh, yeah, there's that. Yeah. Something that needs some attention. So it's this kind of dance of just moving more into my larger self.
We've had a couple questions. One is, if disappointment is my emotion, should I look deeper? No, not necessarily. I mean, there's always something deeper, but that's true of every emotion. Mm-hmm. Disappointment is just as legitimate emotion as any other. But if you do the process we were showing you earlier in the webinar, where you start with the word that comes first, and then say, something in me feels disappointment. Find that place in your body, and then check the word disappointment to see if it is the right word. If you get yes, that's it. And if it's not, go with the new one, you see. And there's an evolutionary process that comes from listening and sensing. And when you get to a place where it's hard to put it into words, you're not sure what the word would be, that's very good. Yeah. Andrea is asking about other people's emotions. For example, my brother was feeling vulnerable and said something hostile to me. Well, I'm sorry that happened to you. It sounds painful. And what you decide to say to your brother will probably be helped by your being able to inwardly be with your own reactions, whatever they are. Because unfortunately, other people can throw us out of self and presence and into one of these identified states, like defensive or reactive. If I can pause and say, okay, inwardly, I know he's been going through a hard time. I can feel the place in me that really didn't like that response, and I'm tending to it inside. Your brother might be amazed at what you would then say after that pause. And I don't know what it would be. But I've seen this happen over and over, that when we take a pause, they call it counting to 10 sometimes, right? But what do you do when you count to 10, right?
Yeah.
Take a pause. Yeah. Take a pause and tend to your own reactions. Be with your own reactions. I am sensing something in me that hates to be talked to that way. And after you do that, what you then say will have so much more calm to it that the other person will go, you might be surprised. Yeah. Recently found out through focusing that my earlier experiences are very connected physically and mentally. My stuckness was the not knowing how. Yeah. The inner younger me wants to feel free and change and be free of all the stuff, but is afraid of the newer, better place. Wow, Doreen, you're doing a great job of listening. Keep it up. Keep listening. Yeah, let that inner you know that you really hear. And Elizabeth writes, I made decisions in the past that make the present difficult. Yeah. And although I no longer agree with my former decision, it is difficult. It is difficult. Yeah. So it sounds like there's a little bit of self-blame there. Shouldn't have made those decisions. Lucinda, if you want to answer, go right ahead.
Yeah, and so that turning toward that Anne talked about, you know, when there is something inside that's blaming you, you can also turn toward that and say, hello, I know you're there. And that can really help with relieving that kind of being merged with the part that is then causing more suffering from inside by blaming you.
Nice. All right, my dears. Not just because I'm starting to have a coughing fit. I think it's time to say goodbye. Let me take one more moment. I think I have a few more slides. Here we go. Those were great questions. So what really makes change possible? When you give yourself gentle, respectful, inclusive, and positive attention, your emotions get what they need in order to transform on their own without effort and work on your part. Actually, it does take work, but it doesn't take effort.
Right.
And even yes?
It's not really work. It's just more of a understanding a new way of being with them.
Yeah, I think I want to say it takes persistence, maybe?
Persistence,
yeah. It takes persistence, but it isn't hard work.
It's not hard work. Right.
It will feel good immediately. And your most difficult emotions can be sources of positive change and growth. So we're at focusingresources.com. And we'd love to see you another time. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Lucinda.
Bye. Thank you.